Stuff does happen. It's called humanity. So there you go. You are watching the best in urban conservative news, talk, and movies. It is the Exceptional Conservative Show on tonight. Tonight we're going to be talking with Kathleen Winn of the Arizona Federation of Republican Women. She's on the executive committee there. And our conversation, as we are a great republic, our conversation is literally about voting irregularities at the grassroots level. We keep hearing at 30,000 feet that there is no issue, that there is no problem. The unfortunate thing, ladies and gentlemen, is that there is an issue, that there is a problem, and the media is one of them. The other part of it is that we're not getting a lot of direction, one way or the other, from the Republican Party or the Trump uh, administration in terms of where we are in this particular election process. So we want to go there at ground level. Kathleen Winn, it's a tremendous honor and pleasure to have you on the air with us tonight.
Thanks, Ken. It's my pleasure to be here.
Listen, first and foremost, um, we understand that elections are troublesome things. They begin with the fact that there are two people opposed to one another, and then there are those who side with one side or the other. And it's supposed to be very easy for us to do, but there seems to be a very many complicated things that are going on. The first question that a lot of people have is how could Maricopa County vote for Joe Biden? How come you all voted for Joe Biden?
Well, I didn't. Um, I'll tell the truth on that. I think so. Again, we have not been able to do an audit. And one of the things we're requesting right now, we were in court today to be able to do an audit. We had a lot of mail in ballots. We have precincts. And Maricopa County is the fourth largest county in the country. And up until this election was the largest Republican county. And I would still argue that it still is. Um, Down ballot, everything below the president and Senator McSally went Republican, which again then raises the question, how did people vote for all the Republican offices in the county and in the state, but somehow we didn't vote for our president and for our senator? Um, and there may be some of that, but I don't think to the breadth and depth that we saw. And then it goes to all the stories that we had about people voting in voting centers, not in their precinct. So how do we reconcile that? And how do we make sure that a precinct didn't overvote? We had a lot of mail-in ballots. We had federal ballots. Federal ballots, you don't have to show who you are. You can just say, I want a federal ballot. That means
Yes.
you only vote in the president, the Senate, and the House race for wherever you live. Um, we Mail-in ballots got sent to everybody, even whether you had requested one or not.
Well,
So that's an
let me just before we make that transition, let's just make it clear to the American people who are watching around the country. This was not a protest vote by Republicans against Donald Trump. Earnestly, uh,
So the president came here 7 times. His children
yes.
showed up here repeatedly. We were, we felt like the Trumps actually lived in next door. They were here a lot, and I attended many events and rallies. And what I would tell you is, based on the enthusiasm and just the number, sheer number of people that would get out there and be here for the president, I find it hard to believe that all of a sudden on election day that dissipated.
Okay.
Um,
So this was not a protest vote. This was not a boycott. This was not let's stick it to Donald Trump. This was certainly something else. And so I want to go along those particular lines of it possibly being because it smells. It really smells bad. I want to give you the chance to comment on that if I'm mischaracterizing anything in terms of that.
No, and I want to be fair. There are maybe some Republicans. Mrs. McCain lives in Maricopa County, I believe, or maybe
Yeah.
Sedona, but we do have some disenfranchised Republicans. But I don't believe that there were as many. I believe Donald Trump maybe got the votes that we're seeing, or possibly more. The voting machines tend to have flipped in other states. Can't speak for Arizona because we haven't been able to analyze our votes, whether or not any votes flipped. I find it really hard to believe that Mark Kelly, the Senate race, got more votes than even Joe Biden in Maricopa County. So there's just some anomalies in the pattern of votes here that just don't seem to make sense.
And let me just establish this with you, Kathleen. And she is the Honorable Kathleen Winn. I don't demean her position, but I feel a personal conversation in this particular regard. Regarding this particular election, knowing that this was a very vital place, Maricopa County, Republicans were out in large number, but there was a reason why they had to be out in a large number, and it goes back to the county recorder, the circuit clerk. What exactly did the circuit clerk do, and was it legislative for the clerk to do what that clerk did?
I don't know if it was legislative. He did a couple of things where he was admonished by the court prior to this election. So during the primary election, he put on the ballot that if you wanted to change a vote for someone, you could just cross it out. And the court admonished him for doing that. That was the primary election. In the general election, we opened up, we're called voting centers, so that you could drop your ballot ahead of election day. We did have long lines on election day, and primarily those voters were Republican. Republicans waited. They don't like to mail in their ballot, although we encourage Republicans to mail in their ballot. The Democrats mailed in their ballot almost immediately when they got them. We keep track of how many ballots are returned, and we chase after ballots. Unfortunately, one of the things that we had was ballots were sent out to everybody, whether you had requested an early ballot or not. I have 3 children that don't live here anymore. They received ballots.
Now, let me clarify here. Did the Arizona State Legislature say that every person in Arizona gets a ballot, whether absentee request or not?
So we vote by county. We have 15 counties.
Yes.
This was a countywide. Maricopa is the largest, but the legislature, to my knowledge, didn't do any kind of mandate like that at all. No, no. This was a unilateral decision made by this county recorder, who, by the way, was voted out. But I think that he's probably has. I've already heard that he's going to go work for the Biden administration and recreate what he's done here in other counties around the country. They're going to take their game plan here and teach other counties how to do this across the country. He did lose this election, and it's unfortunate because and that's why we're asking for an audit.
Exactly. There has to be an audit because, listen, as you're explaining, people are getting mail-in ballots, and you have 7 children, and God bless you and your husband for parenting those children in the admonition of the Lord. You have raised these kids, and they've grown up. They live across the country, and some of your children receive ballots. Am I correct?
Yes, 3 of my daughters.
What, were they supposed to? I mean,
they haven't lived here for a very long time. I've got really wonderful grandchildren to reflect that, but they have husbands, and but we don't. But the problem is that they mailed out ballots to apartment complexes, and those are more transient. So we've got stories of people dumpster diving to get ballots.
Oh my God!
We have stories of again, with these voting centers versus precinct, we haven't reconciled the votes to the number of people that voted. This was obviously the highest voter turnout ever in the history of Maricopa County. Well, why is that? When COVID and Joe Biden and Kamala Harris Kamala came here once. I think former Vice President Biden came here maybe once, but I'm not even sure of that. And unfortunately, they didn't campaign the way, but if they knew that this was going to happen, why would you, right?
Exactly.
You already know you're going to get the votes. The week before the election, NPR came, and ironically, I was interviewed by them, and they told us that Arizona was going to go blue. And at the time, I thought, well, how did they know? I mean, the polls were pretty tight. So then, in retrospect, I think that the media has been part of this. I think that no one would doubt that at this point, that the liberal-leaning media is a part of everything that's going on. The narrative that was created ahead of time. They've told us that this is the highest voter turnout. We're being told here that the Navajo Nation delivered it for Vice President Biden. So to me, I want to know, look at those votes. I want to see how many people voted in Navajo County. Unfortunately, when they brag about something, and mail-in ballots was something that they were really stressing amongst the Democrat Party, mail in your ballot, mail in your ballot. So I, as someone who looks at numbers and has been doing elections here since Senator Goldwater, I really like to look at the numbers. We've had some close elections over the years, but you should always be able to see where people voted, what county, where in the county they voted. And right now, that information is not being made available to us. And I think we at least to calm the fears. If we look at it and we say, yep, they did. But one of the things we know is people moved out of Arizona, and they've been contacted and they allegedly voted, and they're saying they didn't vote. So we have a list of over 100 people right now, people that moved away, that they're saying they voted, but they didn't vote here. And so we're chasing after those. There's just some questions.
So in a recognitive way, looking at what you're saying here, is that number one, an unconstitutional thing may have been done by a gentleman who's been voted out of office and joining the Biden administration, if it exists, by making certain that everybody receives a mail-out ballot or mail-in ballot, and that was not legislated in the state. So that's a constitutional problem, and the Supreme Court may throw out all of those particular ballots accordingly. The second thing is that the ballot harvesting that was going on in terms of people finding ballots and people voting ballots from across the country, even though they didn't live in Arizona. Are there people who are living in Arizona that may have been voting erroneously as well?
Well, so after the election, we had ballots that we needed to cure. So either they had received the ballot and they couldn't read the signature. So I went out, actually knocked on doors. And some of the people, when I knocked on the doors, the people that had voted those ballots didn't live there. So we had ballots for people that didn't live in the homes that they said that they had voted from. And I think it's not any one of these things. It's the sum total of all of these things that is giving us question. I think I shared with you before we went on that we had a 94-year-old man show up in a polling center, and he goes, I want to vote for Trump. And we looked at his ballot, and he goes, I just got this, and it was a primary ballot, but we're now in the general election. Wow. And he was upset because he didn't want to vote for anyone else. He did just want to vote for President Trump, but it was a primary ballot, so the president wasn't on the primary ballot. So there's just, we probably, and I wasn't there, we probably sent him to the polls, he probably got that corrected. But all of these things point to some issues that we just need to have resolved. The Sharpie thing, where they took people's pens out of their hands and handed them Sharpies to vote. And then those didn't go through the machines. And so the Secretary of State, Katie Hobbs, was a little bit defensive about that. She said, they told us how we should be trained and we should have known what to do. And so it's unfortunate. There's a lot of pressure to have this be done. But I think that we have some legitimate questions, and it's in front of a judge now. So either the judge is going to agree that we have a right to do an audit of some of the ballots to just see if what happened that has never happened here statistically did happen,
Yeah.
or not.
Now the
So I think
Sharpie.
we have overvoting, to be honest with you.
Now the Sharpie situation is important because it points back to something bigger. We reported earlier tonight that President Trump believes that 2.7 million votes for him were deleted by Dominion software. Dominion software and Smart Tech software that was used during the election has been criticized for not being able to pick up the Sharpie mark, although defensively the Secretary of State say yes it can. I want to ask you tonight, did the state of Arizona use Dominion software? Did all of those counties use Dominion software? And that's why there might be some problems in Arizona.
So, no, the only county that used the Dominion software is Maricopa County, but Maricopa County is the largest county in Arizona. It is it's geographically, it's one of the biggest, but it's also by population the fourth largest county in the country. And up until this election was the largest Republican county in the country. I think that is it's just an issue that we have this many registered Republicans, and we registered more people ahead of the election Republican than the independents and the Democrats. So there was this enthusiasm. We knocked on doors. So we were out campaigning hard for our president, for Senator McSally, and for our congressional and our local races. But we knocked on thousands and thousands of doors. And we had a lot of people, even from independent or from Democrats, saying that they were going to vote for the president. Now, yes, we also had people that wanted to vote for Senator Kelly. They did. They turned out, and for Vice President Biden. The question is, because of the numbers and what we've heard about these machines, I think 8 months ago in front of Congress, we were told that these machines were 100% corruptible 100% of the time. And if that's the case, at least let us look at the numbers voted versus the rolls, the voter rolls, and see if we have any excess. If we have more than 100% in a particular precinct, we've got an issue. And let us at
Indeed.
least do that analysis. I think that's all that we're asking, and we're being stonewalled.
You want fair elections. You want legal votes to be counted. You're not trying to shaft anybody. You're not trying to be partisan. You want people to know that if Donald Trump won, he won. If Donald Trump lost, he lost. So let me just ask this, Kathleen, as we come to the close of our interview, and this will not be the last time we have you on. We want you back after the election because
Thank you.
the grassroots is very, very important, and you are definitely one of the mobilizers of the grassroots. In terms of this particular election, one in which Maricopa County hasn't been red since I believe Barry Goldwater. I mean blue since Barry Goldwater.
Thank you. I was going to correct.
Thank you. There are those who are sitting back and saying on Fox News and other places that the Republicans didn't get people out in Maricopa County and other counties like that across the country. In fact, in Maricopa County, the GOP chairwoman didn't even show up for the counting of the vote. So it's the Republicans' fault. The Republicans are the ones who messed up here. It's the Republicans that have paid the price, and they're bitter and they're angry and they're intolerable, and they should just concede. So on those two questions, number one, the Maricopa County chairwoman not showing up, is that, as it's been reported, true? And then number two, should the president concede?
Okay. So on the first issue, the county chair did not show up, but she sent a representative. They did not allow that representative in. And then that representative called someone else, and they went ahead and did the test, but they tested 500 ballots. And so if you're going to do what we think happened, We don't know. But your test could go fine. But then they were putting different information in other states that we're hearing about. We, again, don't have proof here. Some kind of, they could affect the software. So the county chair herself did not show up, but she sent a representative, and I don't think that's being reported. She did step down. There was a lot of pressure. I think people were in shock right after we started to get the election results. I think that's one of the things. As for conceding, I would tell this president to use every legal remedy he has and not to concede. I don't believe that we didn't show out for our president. I've watched for the last, really since he got into office, but it's grown. People were afraid when he got elected to say that they were for Trump. And in the last 2 years, we've seen just an outpouring of support and excitement and pride for this president. And despite all the hateful things that have been said about him, his family, he's never been treated with respect in this office. And unfortunately, it is also the office of the president that he is standing for. And I would ask him to stand for that until there are no more legal challenges. And my hope is that his legal team, Sidney Powell and company, really do have what they say they have, and that we are going to be able to prove that this election was not done fairly and equitably, and that the president will be there for 4 more years. I'm also a Christian. I have turned this over to God. There's so much you can do. Yep. We worked really hard here. We worked super hard here in Arizona. We in Arizona love this president. I won't speak for everyone in the state, but for those of us that were in the grassroots, we worked very hard to get him elected. And I would love to be able to do an analysis of the ballots so that I could see where we failed if we did.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
That's all we're asking.
A fair election, an audit, and the media to stop saying, where's the proof? You've got to first investigate in order to know that there's proof that exists. Ladies and gentlemen, Kathleen Winn with us tonight. Will not be the last time she'll be with us. This is a very important election. Arizona has not been called for Joe Biden. It has not been certified. And nor should any of the ballots in Arizona be certified until there is an audit. Thank you so much, Kathleen. We look forward to your return.
Thank you for your time tonight and your concern. God bless.
Before you go, how can an Arizona woman become a part of your group, the Federation for Republican Women?
We have individual city clubs. So I'm part of the Mesa Republican Women. We have, whatever city you live in, we have Republican women. So the Arizona Federation of Republican Women has clubs, over 2,000 members, clubs all across our state. And if you go to AZFRW, Arizona Federation of Republican Women, we have a Facebook page. Message us, and we would love to have you join us. Really wonderful, caring, patriotic, faith-based, God-fearing, wonderful women, and we would love to have you be part of our group. Really wonderful, incredible people.
Thank you so much. God bless you. We look forward to your return after the Thanksgiving holiday.
Thank you so much.
Happy Thanksgiving to you as well. Ladies and gentlemen, Kathleen Winn with us. And you got to know, without a shadow of a doubt, there is no doggone way. Let's just be honest. Maricopa County, there is no doggone way that Joe Biden won Maricopa County. It just smells bad. There is a great need for an audit, and unless an audit is done, we will not be pleased. It has to go to the courts. Ladies and gentlemen, without a